So, you've got a great AMS. Now what? So I'm going to pause briefly to define AMS as Association Management System. And note that I'm speaking at the Novi AMS Summit 2022 in Tampa, Florida. Like all other good software products, the best AMSs stick to their core functions. They don't try to be all things to all people. They are the system of record for members and membership history and dues. But do they want to be an event management system and marketing system, etc.? No, they do not. So returning to the question, now what? For the purpose of this presentation, the answer is provide additional services to your members. You may have a new goal for your association. That goal might be new non-dues revenue, better member retention, or streamlining your own processes. The chances are that your goal is going to have something to do with the member records that you have stored in your AMS. So let's start with Connect It. Why might you want to connect your AMS to some other system? To offer additional services such as providing learning opportunities, tracking continuing education, creating online communities, doing your event management, grants and awards, email marketing, surveying, or benchmarking. But how do you connect to additional services? You'll often hear one phrase used over and over again by the software engineers. You can probably say it with me before the slide even comes up. Use an API. But what is an API? Well, as any techie person such as myself would love to tell you, API means Application Programming Interface. But I guess that isn't all that useful. I tried to come up with a clearer definition of API by describing what it actually does. To me, an API is two things. First, a way for two systems to exchange data. Second, a way for one system to ask another one to perform some action. In order to make this clearer, let me provide some examples. The classic example I see all the time with AMSs is single sign-on. From my API definition, SSO is a way to exchange data. In this case, the identity of the member is the data which is exchanged. I'm going to show you a sample conversation taking place between an AMS and a learning management system. The idea is that the members can already log into the AMS. The association wants them to be able to get into the LMS and get access to the correct lessons without having to sign up or log in again. The conversation I'm showing you is not meant to be technically accurate. It's just to give you the idea of the kinds of things that go on behind the scenes. Establishing the trust between the two systems is an important step, which has to be completed ahead of time. More details are shared from the AMS to the LMS so that users can see that the LMS recognizes them correctly when they arrive there. The LMS needs to know more so it can set itself up to work correctly for the users. An important detail about this conversation is that it assumes these systems already have compatible APIs. Let's look at another example. There is a second kind of data we want to exchange between these same two systems. This time, instead of user identity, the data is about user progress. First, the AMS needs to know if the member actually interacted with the LMS. If not, the association may need to schedule some outreach to the members to see if something went wrong. In this case, it's going to be okay. Since the user has engaged, what progress have been made on the goals we set for them? Progress achieved. Well done, Bob. Now the AMS doesn't need to say anything to the LMS, but it does want to take action based on the progress reported. In this case, the AMS is keeping track of the continuing education credits. Okay, so a conversation between two systems seems pretty straightforward. But life is more complicated than that, right? What if we have another system we need to bring into this API group chat? I've seen a few times where the AMS doesn't track CE credits, but another system does. Or there is a badging system for public bragging rights for members about the courses they have taken. The example I've seen is called a claim. So the conversation may go like this. The AMS to the LMS, then the LMS to the CE system. When the LMS has an existing connection to the certification system, which they frequently do, this model makes sense to keep costs down. But you can see how this can get out of control as you add more and more systems into your overall member solution. Once you have a few long chains of data flows, it can quickly get confusing to figure out what is going on, especially if it ever goes wrong, which it will. For that reason, I recommend that you use a hub and spoke model instead. In the hub and spoke model, where your AMS is the hub, the same conversation would go like this instead. It's a little more work on the AMS and maybe a little more investment up front, but it will pay off in the long run to have centralized control over all the services you integrate with. So, am I making this sound easy? It can be, depending on what your AMS has chosen to integrate with natively. It's still all just API conversations happening in the background, but your trusted product vendors have put in all the hard work. But then there are other times. Two major things can go wrong. First, there is the case where the systems should work together. They are not using custom APIs, they're using open standards, which are supposed to make everything work well together. Unfortunately, where there is one open standard, there will always be competing multiple open standards. If your product vendors picked up different open standards, they can't talk without help. The help in this case is a translator. I'll talk more about this in a minute. The second problem that can occur is what I call the gap. In this case, the two software vendors have both created their own custom APIs. They each expect all other systems to do the work to come to them. They want to keep their customers happy, but it doesn't make sense for them to distract their product development teams to add a new feature that may only benefit a single customer. There are three things we can do to resolve this. First, the gap may not be that big, and a helper can be used to get across. Zapier is an example of an automation service. There are more than 3,000 products which have connectors published to Zapier, including Novi. With an automation service, it's pretty easy for people with moderate technical skills to accomplish simple connections between services they use. Here's one example I've discussed with a prospective Novi customer. They wanted to emulate a feature they had seen from a big, expensive enterprise AMS. That AMS was directly integrated with Outlook and allowed them to record emails to and from members into the AMS. I pointed out that they could achieve the same thing by BCCing a Zapier-connected email box, then using that email to trigger a Novi action. Everything that happens in Zapier consists of two things: a trigger, which is the notification of an event, and an action, which is what you want to happen when the trigger is pulled. Novi has several triggers already defined in Zapier. I'm sure they'll have more on the way. And based on any trigger from any of the 3,000 outside systems, Novi has several actions which can be automatically taken. Zapier does have some competitors, but as far as I know, Novi hasn't connected with them yet, so Zapier is the automation service of choice for now. What is the second way we can fix the gap? Well, if it's too far to jump, we may have to go around. This is the case when what you want to do is supported by the product APIs, but not by the connections they have published to an automation service. Middleware is like an advanced automation service, a service that can make use of all the APIs of the products you want to connect because it depends on an upfront implementation project to do the coding necessary to make everything work. That code is then hosted inside the middleware system itself and runs there exclusively. I don't have any direct experience with any of these, but I've been told secondhand that they can be quite expensive, both upfront and in the long run. Please don't take my word for that, though. Do your own research. Here are two example middleware services I've been told about. You'll also find that middleware is also known as Integration Platform as a Service. Now we get to the third approach to fix the gap problem. This is the one I know the most about. The bridge is very similar to the translator that I showed in the earlier slide. The bridge is a piece of software that is created for you and that you control. It is used to transport messages from one system to the other and to transform those messages as necessary so each system receives what it's expecting. This approach has a couple of advantages. You own it. It can do what you want without compromise. And while it can be more expensive up front, it is frequently less expensive in the long run. So, what is the first step? The most important thing is getting the business rule right. Don't let the engineers steer the ship. You need to be the navigator and the captain. These projects are successful when they start with detailed, well-defined goals. Now remember, all the way back to slide number 4, there were two things we wanted to talk about. We already talked about connect it. Now we need to talk about enhance it. What do I mean by enhance it? Enhancement is when we plug in additional features right into your AMS. Frequently, this is some addition to the AMS provided member portal, adding new things your members can see and use. Okay, but why do this? Let's say your association has a unique utility that cannot be found in any third-party system. If you have some intellectual property that your members want access to, this approach is a great way to deliver it. It works well for member retention and non-dues revenues. Instead of jumping from one place to another, your members clearly see you are providing these features to them right inside your member portal. Again, I think it may be good to have some examples. This is a real-life project we were asked to do for a new Novi customer. They had a career center on their old website before they converted. They wanted to keep this feature on their new member portal instead of having to jump their members out to a third-party jobs board. Members see job listings and submit applications all in one place. We haven't done it, but this could go so far as to, with permission, share confirmed CE credits with the hiring manager during the application process. Here was the project brief. The association administrator created a blank page and secured to the correct member groups. Now they would like new functionality added to the page. The directive seems simple, but the solution can be complex. The goal is to make this look like a built-in AMS feature to the members. We cloud-hosted a database and created a new web-based data entry app. Access to this app is SSO controlled from the AMS. The primary users of the app are corporate members who create job postings. The other users of the app are the association admins who moderate and approve those listings as appropriate for the members. From there, the data goes into the database and, with a little hard work, show up directly on the page of the member portal. Two more short examples of enhancement. Let's say the association has custom business rules to calculate some data based on several fields in their member records, and they want those rules continuously applied. In that case, we trigger a custom external service each time a member record is created or updated. Examine the member fields, then insert the calculated values to custom fields on the member record. In the last example, the association has custom-generated membership cards, created from a Word template with mail merge fields, outputting the card on demand for each member as a PDF file. So, this is a question I get asked all the time. How difficult is all of this? The answer is, it depends. How much of what you want to do is natively supported by your platforms? How much is an easy hop across the gap? How much is building something new from the ground up? In any case, if you have ideas you would like some help to explore, I'm available when you need me. And I'm sure a lot of other service providers are too.